Hello, everybody, and welcome to another wonderful adventure in history. I hope that you are all well. I'm your host, your lowly neighborhood historian, that guy that shows up at bar trivia and ruins everyone's afternoon because he clearly has no life. He's not even drinking. He's just showing up to answer the random questions. What is he doing here? Well, that's me. I hope that everyone is having a wonderful day. I hope that this week has treated you all well. And I hope that everybody is super excited to talk about one of my favorite periods in all of ancient history. A period that's so nice, I've decided to break it into two streams because I feel like rambling, and dibs on that guy for your team. I am always on your team, my dear. Not only am I on your team, I will drive you home after the fun time at the bar. So I'm all in one package: designated driver and random fact knower. So I hope that the world is nice in your area and everything is as up and happy as we can be. The thing about this week for me is that if I'm just being honest, I'm pretty tired. I have not slept well since about Monday night, and I feel like I'm running on whatever is after fumes. Like, what do you run on once the fumes even go? Just pluck and sheer grit, I guess. It's been an interesting day. I almost fell asleep driving home. I had to stop and get caffeine so that I could make it back from my commute from work. I have myself a cup of tea here that will help me also get through the stream. I'm in a good mood, I guess. I'm just really friggin' tired. So hopefully you all have had much more peaceful night's sleep between all of you. So welcome, everybody. Yeah, so the show is Adventures in History, and we talk about history from a fun perspective. We don't have to be stuck in the sort of lecture style. We bring in all sorts of the fun puns and bad jokes and dad jokes and the weird pop cultural references that only work in that special moment where you realize that there was a show called Big Bad Beetleborgs back in the 90s, and you go, I think there's a joke that I can make about Big Bad Beetleborgs. And it still works, because this is a special place where all of us can embrace our inner nerddom. Puns, bad jokes, dad jokes, and pop cultural references, Vipers. Yes, all of those are welcome and encouraged. Also, hey, Vipers, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. Yeah. So, yeah, the show's history, and we talk history, but we also get around to talking about life and the pursuit thereof. You mean like there can be only one Han Solo? Yeah, indeed. Exactly. So that's like a Highlander Star Wars pun. Yeah. I agree with it. And also there's a little bit of a pun here because we're talking about China. So the Han Dynasty is actually going to be a big part of the early portion of the stream tonight. So, yeah. I appreciate the multi-level jokes you've got going there, and as many of those as you want, just bring them on. We just love that stuff here. Yeah, so yeah, I am pretty tired, but it's okay. I am not like my brain is okay. It's just my body, if that makes any sense. Anybody that has sleep issues knows that your brain can be wide awake and your body's just like, I quit. And sometimes it's the other way around. Like your brain is just like, and your body's like, let's go do exercise. Neither of those is particularly productive when it comes to sleep, but you know, it is what it is. So Okie doke. Yeah, so I was saying, we cover history, and on Thursday nights we do history in chronological order. That's right. We started at the beginning of humanity, and we have made our way up to what is the 3rd century of the modern era. So that's the year 200 to about the year 300. And usually the way that we do things is we start over here in the basically where the international dateline is, and we start moving in this direction. And so we cover chunks of time in phases. Hey, Agalanuva, good to see you. And so far this phase, we've talked about Korea and Japan. We have talked about Southeastern Asia. And tonight we are going to talk about good old-fashioned China. And again, this is something that I thought about covering in one episode, but just to be honest, I really like this stuff. So we're going to do it in 2 episodes. And I'm going to be able to ramble a little bit. And that's okay. That's okay. Because we're going to get some neat little stories and some weird little interactions. And we'll get to talk about some of the stuff that might not be completely historically accurate, but is still kind of neat to know about. So, yeah. All right. So to begin with, it's been a while since we've talked about China directly. It's been a couple of months, so I don't expect that everybody was here last time we talked about China. So a brief primer to catch everybody up on China. China was being run by the Han Dynasty. And the Han Dynasty had been in power at this point for about 400 years. And the Han Dynasty was quite large and controlled the majority of this sort of central region of China here. At its height, it had actually controlled all of this region over here, all the way down here to what is sort of the northern part of modern-day Vietnam. So it used to be a lot bigger, but it was on the decline, especially after about the year 100 of the modern era. The Han Dynasty was sort of on the way down. And by the end of the 100s, especially by about the 180s or so, there had been a lot of trouble with the Han Dynasty. The leadership was increasingly bad. They were being brought under the control of court officials, especially court eunuchs, and non-imperial families were gaining control over the emperor through basically being their in-laws. If you thought your in-laws were bad, you should check out some of the late Han Dynasty emperor's in-laws, who are really horrible folks. Hey, Joey, good to see you. I love the laughing Ganon, by the way. That is a great emote. Laughing evil Ganon. I hear him laughing from Ocarina of Time. That ho 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 ho. Yeah, that's what I hear every time I see it. So I don't know what you hear. Hey, KP. How was the trip? Everything go through okay? Did you get where you're going all right? I don't want to completely give everything away, but KP had a trip today that he had to go on. I should hear him in Wind Waker. So I've played Wind Waker a couple of times. I will admit that I do prefer Ocarina of Time. However, I do have the Wind Waker HD remaster for the Wii U, and I haven't played it yet. I know that I need to, because everybody has told me, everybody that has played that has told me that it fixed the vast majority of the biggest critiques that I had on Wind Waker. The original Wind Waker for the GameCube was a really decent game. I appreciated. I didn't really mind so much the artwork after I got used to it. I was initially really turned off by the redesign, but it kind of grew on me. The biggest issues that I had with the original Wind Waker for GameCube were the fact that the hitboxes were just absolutely ridiculous. You could have been rolled past somebody and they still hit you. Especially with the big Dark Nuts, those guys had really big problems with hitboxes. You would not be anywhere near them and they would still hit you with that big sword of theirs. And that really stinks, especially when you're trying to grind out all of the different levels of the big pit. I can't remember exactly what it's called, like the big trial of champions that you have to go through, where you have to fight through 50 levels without pausing or without like saving or being able to pick back up. So that was a big problem. Also, the active areas in Wind Waker were only two-dimensional. So if you walked up to a ladder from the side and tried to activate it, you were not going to activate that. You had to be directly in front of it, looking at it sort of perpendicularly. Same thing is true for some of the items that you had to pick up. It was like you'd be right there trying to pick them up, and it wouldn't really work the right way. Opening chests was that way. Getting doors to open and close were kind of annoying sometimes. But I've been told that all of that got fixed on the HD remaster, so I do want to give it another shot and see if I can put aside the sort of previous biases that I have about the game. I like Wind Waker. It's okay. History of Hyrule. I could do the History of Hyrule. I actually have... I don't have. I bought for my wife, who is another really big Zelda fan, the official History of Hyrule Legendarium. That would be an interesting stream to do. Maybe in some distant future world, we'll do the History of Hyrule. But anyway, so over here in China, the Han Dynasty is falling apart. And especially by the time, the last 2 decades of the 2nd century, the 3rd century, the last 2 decades of the 3rd, so basically 180 to about 200, China was going through lots and lots of internal strife. There were all sort of rebellions. There was a big rebellion called the Red Eyebrows. There was, the Red Eyebrow Rebellion. There was a big rebellion called the Yellow Turban Rebellion. There were big problems with warlords. At one point, a warlord named Dong Zhuo kidnapped a child emperor and basically ran off with him and had to be brought. I'm falling apart, Lisa. Yeah. Check that mod chat real quick about the trip.
Friends.
Romans. Countrymen, lend me your ears. JMR Killer, thank you so much for that host. How are you, my friend? I saw that you were playing Star Wars the other night, and I almost popped in, but I have been so sleepy, I went to bed instead. And that should not be a condemnation of JMR's stream. That should be a recognition of how little sleep that I've actually had. Everybody should go follow JMR Killer. He's a cool guy. Has a little bit of a variety stream going now. Plays some games, but has also started doing some model building. So if you've hung around my stream, you know that I like to do the Gundam builds. So go follow JMR. He's a cool guy, and you'll have a good time over in his stream. So short story, non-zero chance you're going back home tomorrow. Alas, after that whole thing, man, that's craziness. Yeah, I have been distracted and trying to keep myself awake, so I haven't had to check the mod chat in a bit, so apologies for that. But anyway, was that the red angry eyebrow faction? Hey, Techman, good to see you. No, this was just the red eyebrows. The red eyebrow revolt. And the way that the peasants and the people that were in the red eyebrows showed their displeasure was by literally painting their eyebrows red. And that's how you knew that they were mad at you. I guess those were angry eyebrows. If we're taking red to mean anger, that's the way that anger was on Inside Out. He was red. Still haven't seen that movie, by the way. It's one of those that sort of slipped through the cracks. I don't know. I've heard that it's okay. How was Inside Out? Do you all like it? I might need a movie that has very little mental involvement that I could watch. I tried to watch a movie last night. My wife and I were watching the Netflix, the new animated Netflix Witcher. The Vesemir story, basically. And I got about halfway through it and fell asleep in the middle of that. And that should not indicate that it was bad. I really liked what I saw. What was the name of the warlord? That very talented warrior, but he will betray... Lu Bu. That guy betrayed basically everybody that he ever worked for. He was very talented though, and was very scary. Um, in other news, the Matrix Resurrected trailer has you officially stoked. Okay, so I watched the Matrix trailer today, and I will say this about that: the trailer itself is one of the best trailers that I have seen in probably 10 or 15 years. Trailers today give away way too much. Uh, Most trailers today basically give you the first and the second act, and then you can kind of draw conclusions about the third act. The Matrix trailer that came out today was really good. It gave you a hint of what was going on, but I didn't immediately figure out the plot, and I don't know what's up. I still don't think it's going to be that good, though. If I had only ever seen the first Matrix, I would have so much more faith in the Matrix Revolution, or Resurrected as it is, trailer that came out today. However, I saw the second and the third Matrix, and let's just say that 2 out of 3 is bad, if you catch the joke there. I mean, I'm probably going to watch the movie, but I'm probably also not going to go see it in theaters. I don't know if it's going to be worth my money. I'm probably going to wait to see if it's any good from a few people or get some reviews on it, but I don't have high hopes. The second Matrix movie was like, eh. It had really good action scenes, and the special effects were like amazing, but the plot kind of meandered a little bit, and then it sort of ended at the end with this guy that said a lot of fancy words like ergo and vis-a-vis and concordantly, which was epically parodied by the beginning of the MTV Movie Awards, by the way. The third Matrix movie was just bad. So bad that I didn't even really feel the need to watch it again after I saw it in theaters. Basically, the entire story was Neo is Jesus. And then they decided to just beat you to death with, hey, Neo's Jesus. He's for real Jesus. No, for real, he's Jesus. He's Jesus. Do you see him? He's Jesus. He's Jesus. And then at the end, they're like crucifying him with like cables and stuff, and like, it's still Jesus. And okay, that's enough. Thanks. I get the point. I got it in the first 5 minutes of the movie where he resurrected himself. I got it. All right, Wachowskis, back off. I love Keanu too much not to see it. I do like Keanu Reeves. He's amazing. And honestly, the John Wick franchise has completely resurrected my belief that we can have good action movies today. John Wick is brilliant. It's dumb in all the best ways, but it's also just really freaking good. The third was like alien spaceship kidnapped. Yeah, the third was just a hot mess. You have a sneaking suspicion that Matrix 4 is what Autumn saw a rough cut of and said, good, but not everything that it could be. Possibly. Hey, Finesse, how are you? I'm okay. Like, mentally I'm here, but I'm pretty physically tired. You love that Will Ferrell, Justin... yeah. If you haven't seen the introduction, it's like the 2003 or 2004 MTV Music Awards. If you haven't seen that, it's a parody of the second Matrix movie, and it is truly brilliant. It is the funniest thing that came out about that. He struck me as more of a Super Saiyan. Okay, so he did go Super Saiyan, and the fight between Smith and Neo was almost like a punch-for-punch fight of like Goku versus Frieza. I think someone actually did a cross-cut where they put the fight scenes up side by side, and it's like even some of the same fight choreography. Joey doesn't even know what I'm talking about because clearly there is no Matrix 3. Keanu is Revan. Dude, if they did a Knights of the Old Republic and Keanu played Revan, I would be so down with that. I would be all over that. I endorse that right now. In fact, if they don't do it, I'm going to be upset. Okay. So let's actually talk a little bit about China. So at the time, there is one sort of final emperor of the Han Dynasty, and his name is Xian. And here is a picture of Emperor Xian. He's got his cool hat. I could give him probably like a good 6.5 on the hat here. He's got some interesting facial hair going on. I don't know what's up with these sort of weird side lock things that you got going. That's not necessarily the coolest thing ever. I really don't know what's going on there, but okay, I guess, different cultures, different times. Why is he playing Space Invaders? This is actually the writing that talks about Emperor Xian and gives him some of his titles. I am not really good at reading the Chinese characters, though. I know what they look like, but that's a great... They do quite look like that. Do you think they'll get to watch Matrix 4 in China? Okay, Joey, I see what you did there. I'm pretty sure that every big action movie that comes out now is going to be tailored towards being able to get through all of China's strictness. I don't think that we'll ever see another big action blockbuster movie that has a Chinese bad guy, for example, or mentions Taiwan as a country. I don't think we'll get any of that. So Emperor Xian is a pretty weak dude, just to be honest. He rules from 189 to 220. Guess I can put that in there. So we need to talk about him for a little bit. So he is the emperor during a lot of these rebellions, especially the stuff that's going on at the very end of the Yellow Turban Rebellion. Also, he's involved in that whole emperor gets kidnapped thing. He was the brother of the guy that got kidnapped and then ended up being emperor himself under the kidnapper. It's sort of complicated. If you want to know more about that, go check out the last stream that we did on China. But for the next decade or so, this guy is basically just going to lose everything that he had. He's going to end up losing a lot of land. He's going to end up losing most of his authority. And he's not even going to really be too much of an emperor after a little bit. China seems to be approving less and less Hollywood movies now that their domestic box office is taking off. Fewer and fewer. Oh, Stannis Baratheon. Stannis was an interesting guy until he killed his kid. And then I was just like, I don't think I like you anymore. Anyway, so Emperor Xian is going to still be the emperor all the way through 220, but let's be honest, he's really not in control after about 195. The reason he's not going to be in control anymore is because of the rise of another guy whose name is Cao Cao. Yes, let us all go ahead and giggle. His name is Cao Cao. I know that sounds funny. I know, but that's his name. His name is Cao Cao. This is Cao Cao. He even looks kind of like I'm going to steal all your power-ish. Like if you said somebody's going to steal your power and you had this guy in a lineup, you'd probably go, I think that guy's the dude that's going to do the power stealing. Or at least I think so. How now, Brown Cow? I actually considered very briefly naming the stream tonight How Now, Brown Cow. He has shifty eyes. Koa? Like the... No. Cow. You've heard some people pronounce it Sao. Yeah, so the translation from Chinese into English is not directly comfortable. The letters that they use are different. His son is named Moo. Oh, his son is named so much better than that. I'm not going to tell you what his son is named right now, but if you hang around, his son is named one of the most unfortunately horrible things ever. Oh man, is his son's named horrible. Achu, son of a sneeze. Romanization is stupid for most languages. Indeed, thank you. Also, hey, Figment, good to see you. So Cao Cao, what's up with this guy? So originally, he was just a governor of one of the northern provinces, and when all of the stuff started going down, where Emperor Xian started losing his power, Cao Cao sort of makes this calculated decision, a calculated decision, perhaps, that he's going to just go down to the capital. He's just going to just go hang out in the capital, and he's going to sort of ingratiate himself with all of the other people that are around the emperor. And because he's wicked smart, he manages to sort of cajole his way into the inner circle. And then before long, he sort of cajoles his way into being the emperor's right-hand man. And he does this really sneaky-like. And he's very crafty when it comes to the way that he's manipulating people. Cao Cao is a master game player. So, if anything, he's not necessarily the Stannis. He's more like the Littlefinger, if you will. The guy that knows how the game is played and just always manages to come out like one step ahead. But like as he's rising through the ranks, there are all these other generals, of course, that are ahead of him that don't necessarily care for him, but he still manages to like get ahead of them. Like he'll host big parties in their honor. Like, let's get together and celebrate these people. So like everybody's like, oh, you can't suspect Cao Cao. The dude's really cool, and he spends a lot of his money on, getting other people, gratitude and such. And he's not really, ambitious or anything. He's just a good guy. Oh no, for real. This guy's all about playing the game and climbing up the ladder. So he ends up getting into this position where he is made one of the top generals. And Emperor Xian basically gives him this shared power position. But if we're being honest, Cao Cao is sort of running the show. And by the time we get to about 195 or 196, somewhere in there, he even convinces the emperor to move the capital of China from Luoyang, the city that had been the capital for the majority of the last couple of centuries, up to Cao Cao's hometown in his governing province, this city called Shi. How do you convince the emperor to move the entire capital? Like, that's how in this guy was. And then he ran afoul of the Stark sisters, right? He's very much a Palpatine kind of guy. You have the land I want. Have you heard about the guy next door that has really cool horses? Yeah, man, go there. Suddenly Cao Cao takes your land. I don't know, man. It just fell into my lap. Shiggy already knows about what's happening here. Using his influence, once he gets the capital literally in his own territory, he starts dealing with all of these other generals. Like, okay, let's find a way to get this guy really far out on the border, and let's try to figure out a way for somebody to maybe rebel in his territory while he's gone, and then let my army just kind of swoop in and go, oh, we're keeping the peace. The emperor sent us, right? Sorry, you're a bad governor because you can't keep people in your own home territory happy. So they rebelled as soon as you left. Yeah. And this guy's just like all sorts of wheelie and dealy and such. Cao Cao said, I am the Senate. He's about to say, I am the Emperor, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. He ends up convincing the Emperor to give him the title of Duke, which is basically like, I am next powerful to the Emperor himself. So this guy is like, I am the captain now. So this guy is in really big, really bad position for basically anybody else. And it just so happens that there is a guy that has been watching all of this happen that is very upset. And his name is Yuan Shao. He looks like this. Bum, ba, da, bum. Here's Yuan Shao in his finery. I'm going to have to give his hat at least a 7. It's got some panache. He's also decked out. It's pretty nice stuff. Pretty cool looking dude. I've never understood what's up with these shoes, though. Like, they come out and they have this, like, flat toe piece that sort of just sticks up. Is that just so that he doesn't end up stepping on the front of his hemmed robe? Maybe. Maybe. Ah, the peasantry. Oh, indeed. Excessive ornaments and embroidery. Yeah, exactly. He knows his outfit is lit. Indeed. So here's the thing. Yuan Shao had almost single-handedly saved the emperor from this other bad guy named Dong Zhuo from last time. And Yuan Shao was sort of like the most revered general that was out there. And when Cao Cao was manipulating all of this stuff, Yuan Shao goes, no, dude, you gotta stop that. You gotta, this is just no good. And the emperor is still sort of giving him orders, like, Yuan Shao, go handle this. Yuan Shao, go handle that. Yes, the guy's name is Dong Zhuo. And you can watch the VOD if you want there, Shiggy. So here's the thing. The emperor has basically given Yuan Shao sort of a blanket command that anywhere he sees rebellion, Yuan Shao should put the rebellion down. And this guy was a big hero. He was a hero. He had ended the Yellow Turban Rebellion. He had killed all of the court eunuchs that were sort of running the emperor into the ground. He had delivered the empire back to the actual emperors themselves. This guy was a super big hero. So him having sort of an open-ended command was not really that weird, right? The dude was just doing his job. But here's the thing. Yuan Shao starts finding these rebellions, and when he ends them, he sort of just squats his army down on that province for a little while to make sure that the territory is going to stay peaceful. And at that point, Cao Cao gets this idea of how to try to bring charges against him. And he says, look, here's the deal, Emperor. Yuan Shao is not actually bringing peace to these areas. He's conquering them for himself because he wants to build himself his own little empire. And the emperor's like, I don't know, it doesn't really seem like his thing, considering he had the empire and then kind of gave it back to me. Why would he wait until I'm an older person that's in my own faculties and then try to take it away? That doesn't really line up. And Cao Cao's like, I assure you, he is evil. And at this point, a lot of people get real fed up with Cao Cao. And they're like, we've got to find some way to get rid of this dude. And in 199, there is a big plot that starts to sort of get rid of Cao Cao. And the plot is basically that there's going to be sort of a two-pronged approach. One of the generals that was friends with Yuan Shao, and who will be a pretty big person for the rest of the stream here, is this guy named Liu Bei. And I know that these people are all starting to sound a little bit similar, especially if you have never heard this history before. Just bear with us. People are unfortunately going to start dying and getting rid of in just a second. So this is Liu Bei. He's got the cool imperial headdress, but that's sort of giving away what happens a little bit later. He's got the you can't see me veil. How long does Cao Cao's next Uno reversal take? Not so long. Not so long. So, Liu Bei has an army, and the plan is that Liu Bei is going to invade, and then when Cao Cao comes out with the army, or sends the army away, then the people that are inside of the conspiracy are going to take Cao Cao out from the inside. So there are a couple of people that are inside the capital that are going to be like the actual assassins that are going to take out Cao Cao. So attack, draw away a lot of the forces so that Cao Cao is more exposed, and then kill him. So here's the thing. It doesn't work. Liu Bei attacks, and then the people that are inside the capital blunder the whole thing, and Cao Cao finds out. So at this point, Cao Cao sort of sets out to chase down Liu Bei, and they meet in a battle, and Liu Bei gets defeated and has to run away, you know. And if you're going to run, and you have to run from the big bad, you have to run to the big good, right? If the big bad is chasing you, the big good guy is the only guy you run to. So Liu Bei ends up running to Yuan Shao. And this is unfortunate because it actually throws a lot of chaos into the whole thing, because now Cao Cao knows that there was a plot against him. He has people that he's caught. He can take them to the emperor, and they can say, you know, I was working with Liu Bei. And now, where is Liu Bei? Liu Bei's hanging out with Yuan Shao. And Cao Cao can go, I told you that guy's up to no good. He's trying to kill me. And he's trying to kill me so that he can get to you. And at this point, the emperor's kind of like, what should we do? And Cao Cao's like, just let me run the empire. I'll handle this. You joke, but I think there was a Su Long as an advisor somewhere in the Three Kingdoms lore. I think it's spelled like this, though. Not so, like, I think it's just S-U. There's also a guy named Shu, like that. But he's another guy, and he's on another side. And that's also later. There are lots and lots of people in this whole scenario, by the way. And I'm not going to bring all of them in because we could turn this 2-part series into about a 5-part series and still not really get through all of it. This is really complex politics that I'm pretty much oversimplifying here. But it's okay, because if you know this stuff, it'll at least give you a point to go pick up the rest of this. And you can, you know, if you're interested in doing this stuff, these people that I'm mentioning are people that you can go look up and learn more about. But yeah, there are lots and lots of people during this era. So, here we go. Yuan Shao realizes that he is in danger, and Cao Cao starts basically issuing orders as the emperor. Like, he will say, go do this, and they go, Cao Cao, is this you saying this, or is this the emperor? He's like, well, the emperor told me to tell you this. And he is, at this point, not just the power behind the throne, he sort of is the power. And Emperor Xian is just more of a joke. The letter X must be delighted that the Chinese language exists. It doesn't get much use. Right? It just so happens that they have this particular sound that we don't have a letter for, and people are like, it's close enough to X, just use X. So, at this point, Yuan Shao's like, we've got to go save the emperor. I've saved him once, I can save him again. So Yuan Shao loads up with his army and Liu Bei, and they go to attack Cao Cao. And this does not go well at all. Cao Cao's army is really, really big, and they overwhelm Yuan Shao's army. Yuan Shao basically is humiliated and has to sort of slink back home and is effectively out of the game from that point forward. He only lives 2 more years. He dies in 202 to a sickness. You know, sickness is one of those things that gets a lot of people. We don't necessarily get a lot of details sometimes. He just died of a sickness. So Yuan Shao's out. Just imagine if you were Yuan Shao's brother trying to do the same thing. Yuan Shao, you are the weakest link. Goodbye. Well, there are a lot of people that sort of take up the mantle. And Liu Bei is one of them. In fact, Liu Bei is sort of the next logical target. Because with Yuan Shao out, he's the next biggest challenger to Cao Cao. And so you got to get rid of him, right? The difference is that Liu Bei is a lot more flexible in his approach to battle than Yuan Shao was. Yuan Shao is very much a sort of old school, show up with lots of numbers. Here's my regimented front. I put forward my soldiers and flank with my archers and send my cavalry around to pinch your attack. And he's not necessarily super fluid. And Liu Bei has some of the best military strategists alive on Earth at the time. And I'm not joking. The military advisors that Liu Bei has are unparalleled. These people are constantly going to be outnumbered and either manage to get away with their armies or pull out weird, unexpected victories. This guy has the good people. He's also got some really fearsome warriors with him, people like Zhang Fei, and we'll talk about Guan Yu in a little bit. But Liu Bei is not going to go down in one big battle. In fact, over the course of the next about 7.5 years, from 2001, from 201 to 208, Cao Cao and Liu Bei are going to basically be going at it. And every time Cao Cao thinks that he has Liu Bei's army pinned down for this sort of final defeat, Liu Bei will outmaneuver him. They trade victories and fights against each other. Now, to be fair, if we're actually looking at this in sort of an overall picture, Cao Cao is winning, but he's winning by inches. He's not defeating Liu Bei's army or capturing Liu Bei. He's just sort of pulling out the victory because he has overwhelming numbers. And Liu Bei's biggest issue, and this is sort of always Liu Bei's biggest issue, is that his region that he controls doesn't have a lot of food in it. Liu Bei's region is very highly populated, but it's also starting to get over here in some of the mountainous areas of China where there's not necessarily the world's best amounts of food. Also, that area had been pretty heavily beaten up and gone under a lot of warfare in the previous few decades, so there wasn't necessarily a big surplus of food in the first place. If you were with us in the last time we talked about China, you might remember that one of the biggest things that these rebellions started about was food distribution. There just wasn't enough food to go around. So Liu Bei is almost always at this situation where he's having to try to fall back to keep his supply chain intact because he doesn't have as much supplies as he should. But here's Cao Cao, who basically has the clout of the emperor behind him and is able to do a lot because of that. By the way, the territory that Cao Cao is running is effectively all of northern China up here. There's a big chunk of this territory that is producing a lot of food, a lot of people, and has a lot of money, and has the capital, and has the emperor, right? So not just the figurehead, but a pretty powerful zone. Now, you might be asking what's going on down here, and that actually comes into play in just a second. So Emperor Xian, let's just be honest, he's there, but he's not there. Really, at this point, what we're looking at is a war between Cao Cao and Liu Bei. And this is going to continue, like I said, for about 7 years. And it's only really going to have a sort of a pause after this big battle called Changban. Changban is a really big battle that takes place in 208. And Liu Bei is finally going to get caught by this really big army of Cao Cao, and he loses almost all of his soldiers. And Liu Bei and his personal bodyguard and some of his family are the only ones that escape. And they basically make it out by the skin of their teeth. And it's really not good for Liu Bei. And it's at this point that he decides that he needs to make an alliance with somebody else so that they can then go to fight Cao Cao. And this is where our third future emperor is going to come in. A guy named Sun Quan. And this is Sun Quan, who is the Tiger of Jiangdou. This guy was a very fearsome fighter. He was a very well-respected leader. He was sort of universally considered to be a very wise maneuverer, both in battle tactics and in politics. And he also had something that Liu Bei didn't have. Sun Quan looks like he doesn't get much sleep. Well, it's probably because he's staying up late to trying to figure out what the bad guys are doing so that he can counter them. Sun Quan has a navy. And this is something that Liu Bei does not really have in excess. And Sun Quan is the guy that controls this sort of southeastern region, especially around the Yangtze River. This nice big river right here. Whoop, slow down. There we go. So he controls all of this stuff, and he's got a pretty big territory. And Sun Quan also doesn't really care for Cao Cao. So Liu Bei and Sun Quan are natural friends in that they both hate Cao Cao. And Liu Bei understands that he's sort of at a disadvantage, not necessarily having a big army. So he approaches Sun Quan. He's like, look, man, here's the deal. The only way that anybody is going to be able to beat Cao Cao is if you and me sort of throw in together and we make an alliance of both military and intelligence and economics, and we sort of try to cut them off, and we sort of try to isolate them a little bit, and then you let me rebuild my army and my territory, and then we'll go out and get them. So that's the plan. Well, that would require Cao Cao to stop, right? For Liu Bei and Sun Quan to get their act together, Cao Cao would have to not attack them. And that's not really in Cao Cao's world. He's not really a, hey, my enemies are ganging up on me and forming alliances. I'll just let them go. Like, let's just see what they come up with. Let's let them rebuild their strength, and then I'll let them come and invade me, and it'll be great. You missed the Sun Quan's most important title, Father of Sun Luban. Alas. Sun Quan is not the father of Sun Luban. Anyway. Well, I mean... Okay, so let's be honest about Sun Luban. She was a... How do I say this? She's one of those people that's like gets played up a lot in the story, but she's really not such a big deal. She's really only such a big deal because she gets married off. And one of the big generals of what goes on to be the Wu Kingdom is this guy named Zhao Yu, who has almost an unparalleled skill in battle. This guy's a really good leader, good general. And Sun Quan thinks that Zhao Yu is such a big deal that he marries his daughter off to him. But if you read the big like Romance of the Three Kingdoms thing that comes out of the later Qing dynasty kind of romanticized version of all of this, she's this whole big epic figure that's like a consort and da 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 da. She's like, I don't know. I should say that there has been there was a big Chinese novel written about this period of time called The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, where a lot of the actual historical events get blown super far out of proportion and get blown into some sort of stratospheric, like romanticized thing where everybody is noble even in death except for the bad guys, and they're horrible from birth. And a lot of the battles get blown way out of proportion, and it's like there were 80,000 men there, and then there probably weren't 80,000 men there. If you read The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, a lot of these characters that were sort of footnotes in history become sort of central because it's easy to expand upon their role if there wasn't really anything known about them. Ironically, this is the same reason that I'm really sort of skeptical about the Amazon Lord of the Rings series or Middle Earth series that's supposed to be set in the Second Age. They chose that on purpose because there's not a lot of lore written about a lot of that period of time, so they can do whatever they want to with it, and I'm not really expecting them to stay very much true to the lore that is there. So everyone is noble except for Cao Cao. Yeah, and in The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Cao Cao is like the devil. He's just a horrible dude. He's a pretty smart guy, and he's a smooth operator for certain, but he's not the devil. Anyway, so Cao Cao is not going to let Liu Bei and Sun Quan really get this alliance really firmed up. Instead, he's going to take his navy and he's going to attack them basically later that year at a place called Chibi, which is not anything to do with small body, big heads. It means red cliffs. And maybe I should even type that beside here. This is the Battle of Red Cliffs. And that's just too much. Maybe this. Chibi / Red Cliffs. How about that? The new Red Cliffs Chibi. Yeah, they're going to make pop figures of... Oh, dude, I wonder if they have made pop figures of all of the generals of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. If they do, I totally want a Zhuge Liang pop. That would be awesome. Do they really have those? If they do really have those, I'm going to have to look at them. Zhuge Liang is the coolest character ever, though. We'll talk about him later on. You know what I'm talking about, Shiggy? Anyway, so here's the deal. Cao Cao has a pretty big navy, and wait. I'm going to have to pause this. You know an ex-Funko employee who could make me one. Oh, Vipers. Now that's... Okay, that's an interesting proposition. If I could have an entire line of the Three Kingdoms pop figures, that would be sick. Shut up and take my money. Anyway, let's not indulge that fantasy at the moment. We'll be here all night. If they made Gundam pops, I'd be all over that too. They sort of already do make Gundam pops back in the early 2000s, or maybe even the late 90s. Gundam came out with this line called Super Deformed, or SD Gundam, and it's basically little chibi Gundam models, and they have tiny bodies and big heads, and they're friggin' adorable. And I want all of them. I just don't let myself buy them because they're crack. It's like once you have one Super Deformed Gundam kit, you must have all of them. But they're cheap. They're like little $10 kind of easy to put together kits, but they're super cool. I don't have any of them, though. You'll ask her about it next time you see her.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
Kyle,
I'm
right.
Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! Spartacus!
Kyle, thank you, man. Thank you so much for that sub. And safe travels home. I hope that you are rested, and I hope that your long drive back is a safe one, my friend. Please do be safe. And I am honored that you have us here on the radio, basically. Thanks again for the sub. It is always appreciated, and I really do mean that. Okay, so the Battle of Red Cliffs. This is a pretty big deal because this is sort of the first attempt of Liu Bei and Sun Quan to act kind of together. Here's the thing, though. Liu Bei doesn't really have much of an army. His army just got whacked at Changban. So he has a little bit of soldiers, but he also has some smarts. He's got his military advisors with him, and they are able to help Sun Quan out. Sun Quan has his own military leaders, especially this guy named Lu Xun, who's quite good. Anyway, long story short, they sort of position themselves around these big cliffs. These are the Red Cliffs, by the way. This is where the name of the battle comes from. And there's a big bend in the river where Cao Cao has his ships sort of pulled up, and he's kind of moving his soldiers off of the ships onto the land. And Sun Quan, with the help of Liu Bei and his military advisors, they come up with this idea of basically attacking in sort of two interesting motions. The first one is that Sun Quan is going to light some of his own ships on fire. He has a smaller navy with, well, a smaller meaning the ships are smaller. Cao Cao has sort of these big troop-carrying, multi-deck, really, really big ships, and even had platforms set up on top of them in case he needed to fight on the decks of these big ships. So they're sort of hard to move, and they're close together in this little bend of the river, so they're not very easily shifted or maneuverable. And when they find this out, Sun Quan sends his own ships in on fire, and they sail into Cao Cao's fleet and set Cao Cao's fleet on fire. And at the same time, they send in land and armies to sort of attack the soldiers that are already on the beaches and on the land. And, at that point, the army of Cao Cao is trapped between not being able to retreat because of the fire and having this big army of Sun Quan's forces right in their face, and Cao Cao is utterly defeated. It was so fire. Ain't nobody got time for that. Nobody's got time for burning down the ships. I could have named the show Burning Down the Ships. I could have named it that. That would have been a pretty good one. I do like the talking heads. That would have probably been then I could have saved this one for next week, alas. It's okay. I think about it now, but I still think you can go your own way and just spell it different is that's a pretty good title. Go your own way. Way, by the way, is something that we'll get to in just a moment. Well, we've already mentioned it. Cao Cao at this point is the Duke of Wei, a region of northern China. Okay, so at Red Cliffs, the army of Cao Cao is defeated. Also, it turns out that his army also caught the plague. So his army is weak, and the few that get away are carrying the plague back with them. And if you are Liu Bei and Sun Quan, you're like, hey, this is great. We wiped out a large portion of his navy. We killed a bunch of his military. And the military that got away, they're full of the plague. And this is actually going to be the breather that Liu Bei and Sun Quan were hoping for, so that they could sort of formalize their alliance, and so that Liu Bei could go back and start sort of reconstituting his army. And this is exactly what happens. Liu Bei goes back home in 209, and as soon as he gets over there, he sort of puts his army back together and pretty quickly manages to gobble up 4 provinces. And these were provinces that were either unaligned or sort of leaning towards Cao Cao. So this is a big swelling of his numbers, and Liu Bei is able at that point to contribute a lot more to the alliance between him and Sun Quan. Now, Cao Cao is at a little bit of a loss. Pun intended, maybe? he wasn't expecting to lose. He did not expect the whole thing at Chibi to happen. Oh, by the way, there's a great movie that you can watch, like either the one massive extended version of it, or you can watch the two-part version of it. But it's called Red Cliffs, and I can't remember exactly when it came out, but it was like early 2000s when it came out. It's the movie is based on the situation surrounding this particular time period. It is heavily based on the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, so the stuff that happens in a lot of the dialogue is sort of, juiced up for dramatic effect, but it is absolutely beautiful. A lot of the military stuff that they talk about is actually the military stuff that happened at the event, and you get to see a lot of the cool sort of fireship-y strategy kind of stuff. It's a really good movie, and now that I'm saying it, I kind of want to watch it again because it's really, really good. I think it was in like 2007 or 2005 or 6 or something like that, but it actually came out in China, so the Chinese movie production company made it. You do have to read the subtitles, but it's a really good movie, and you should check it out if any of this. It's called Red Cliffs. And if you, and again, it's you can watch like one version of it that's like 4.5, 5 hours long. But I also think that they made like Red Cliffs Part 1 and Red Cliffs Part 2. You're still waiting for the all-female cast version of 300 with the original costumes. Ha, 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 Joey. Ha, ha, ha. If you've read the original 300 comic book by Frank Miller, all of the Spartans are buck naked except for their cloaks and their helmets. So there's the joke. And if you explain the joke, it makes it not funny. So sorry, Joey. Anyway, so Liu Bei is consolidating his empire and expanding his territory. Cao Cao doesn't really have much location to go. He's got Liu Bei to sort of the south and west over here. He's got Sun Quan to the south and east. The really only territory that he can sort of expand to is this northeasterly region. And unfortunately, that's going to put Korea right in the crosshairs. And China controlled 2 regions of the northern Korean peninsula right in here. These were 2 commanderies. And basically, these regions had become a little bit either independent or Korean leaning. Well, Cao Cao's going to end that. And he's going to move up this way and sort of take over this whole region right up here. And that is going to make sure that he has reinforcements for the coming battle. Everybody's basically looking for new places to get troops, right? Joey's not allowed to make requests anymore. Joey's fine. So what is Sun Quan doing? Okay, so here's the thing. Sun Quan realizes that instead of expanding, what he really needs to do is prepare for Cao Cao's invasion. And along the river here, Sun Quan is going to make incredibly strong fortifications. He's going to build big forts. He's going to build sort of barriers that keep you from coming on shore. He's basically going to fortify the entire southern bank here of the river. And he's doing this because he knows that Cao Cao will eventually come for him. And he knows that when Cao Cao shows back up, it's not going to be pretty. And in fact, after 211, Cao Cao does start showing back up and trying to get down into Sun Quan's territory, and he can't do it. Sun Quan has just fortified this so strong with so many big forts and holdfasts that Cao Cao just can't break through. And just to be honest, Liu Bei's loving this. Like, yes, expend all of your energy on the really strong opponent and leave us who are rebuilding alone. And there are a lot of people inside of Cao Cao's court that don't really understand why he's doing this. Like, you should go attack Liu Bei. The guy's weak. He's the weakest link. He's the guy that you should target. And he's like, no, Sun Quan humiliated me. He beat my rear end at Red Cliffs. I will pay him back. And they're like, dude, just get over yourself and go fight the weak dude. Go kill the weak dude, and you can attack him from 2 sides. He's like, no, I'm not gonna. Defense? That is cheating, right? Right? Cao Cao was super salty. He was so salty. I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to, like, he's a bad guy. I'm going to get him. I'm just not going to quit. He just wouldn't give it up. So Liu Bei's just chuckling it up as he's taking over territory out in the west and adding to his army and swelling his ranks and establishing food supply lines. Yeah. At that point, after about 211 or 212, Liu Bei is going to realize that Cao Cao is just utterly blind to this whole side of his territory. And Liu Bei says, I'm going to invade Cao Cao's territory, and we'll take the fight to him. Bah, bah. Sneaky, sneaky. So he invades Cao Cao's territory and manages to take a little portion of the territory right around in here. And at that point, Liu Bei takes a big step. And he decides, okay, I'm going to say that now that I'm winning and getting some traction here, that I am king. And he calls himself the King of Shu. And this is spelled like SHU. So Liu Bei is now the king. So he's sort of formally declaring that he is his independent political group. And Cao Cao gets really upset at this. And he's like, you can't be king. I'm not king. So Cao Cao goes to the emperor, Emperor Xian, and he's like, you have to make me king of Wei. And Xian's like, dude, I've already made you duke of Wei. Can you just be happy? And he's like, no, I want to be king. So Emperor Xian makes Cao Cao king of Wei. And now they're both kings. And he's like, ha, I'm a king too. I got you. Ha, ha, ha. And it's at this point that Sun Quan gets a little bit uncomfortable. He's like, wait a second. Liu Bei is now a king. He's invading Cao Cao's territory and winning. Does Liu Bei really want to be allied with me anymore? And Sun Quan's starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable about the alliance. He's like, was he really just using me as a shield so that he could sneak around the backside of Cao Cao's territory, take it all over, and then declare himself the emperor? Is that what he's gunning for? And Liu Bei didn't really have that big of a deal with Sun Quan. He wasn't trying to take him over yet. Now, if he had taken over Cao Cao and won like 2/3 of the kingdom, that would have been a different story. But for the moment, Liu Bei probably wasn't worried about like stabbing Sun Quan in the back. But Sun Quan gets a little uncomfortable. You were totally thinking he was the king of Shu. So Liu Bei equals king of Shu. Like that. 100% he was. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, Liu Bei might have had long-term plans, but he was perfectly fine letting Sun Quan sit there and being allied with him as long as Cao Cao was going to keep throwing away soldiers trying to invade the south. Now, things change, and stuff does go down. And stuff starts going down. His shoes were low level. Stuff starts going down because of this guy named Guan Yu. Who is Guan Yu? This guy. This guy's Guan Yu. He decided to forego hat for do-rag, and he's got full sideburns instead of just like the weird like side locks here. Now Guan Yu was one of the biggest. He's not one of the kids with the pumped up kicks. Right. So Guan Yu had been with Liu Bei since the very beginning. Guan Yu was basically as close to Liu Bei as a brother. And he was also one of the top generals and one of the closest confidants of Liu Bei. And this is where stuff starts going sideways. So Guan Yu was holding some territory that was sort of on the border, right around in here, between the Shu kingdom and Sun Quan's kingdom of Wu. Is that how one pronounces cow with a hard C? Isn't one of the meanings of cow pronounced that way poo? We're not poo, but the other one. And we're getting to him in just a second. In about 3 years, we'll talk about the other cow. If you've heard it pronounced sow, that is an acceptable pronunciation as well. Cow is usually how I've heard people say it. So here's the deal. Sun Quan is worried about Liu Bei and Liu Bei's fidelity to their alliance. So Sun Quan decides, what if I get in good with one of Liu Bei's best friends? And so he reaches out to Guan Yu, and he's like, hey, Guan Yu, I've got a deal. Why don't you marry one of my daughters? And that will seal our friendship. And then you can go tell Liu Bei about what kind of good guy I was. And Guan Yu was not the best politician. And his response is really, really uncomfortable. Cao? Yeah. So I don't know how modern people would pronounce this in China. But there's that sound, like it's Cao Cao, like that. I'm going to go with a cow. But Foggage, I appreciate that you correct me on that stuff. Especially with modern pronunciations. Closer to Cao, yeah. I don't know. I just know that if I went into a historian convention, I'm not saying the historian conventions are accurate, and said cow, they would know who I was talking about. I can go look it up when I'm done, though. But I have heard it pronounced that way, and I'm not saying that it is the right way, and I'm not saying that I'll perpetuate it, and I'll even post that I was wrong if I dig it up and figure it out. But I'm going to keep saying cow. Anyway, so where am I? Guan Yu, yes. So Sun Quan says, hey, marry my daughter. And Guan Yu sort of tells him in no uncomfortable way, or no comfortable way, that his daughter is in no way good enough for Guan Yu, and that Guan Yu would never marry some ragtag peasant girl from the south. It's not a good way to respond to an international attempt at friendship. And Guan Yu really, really insults not only Sun Quan, but his whole family. And it gets like blood feud level. You just notice go your own way. Hey, Batbird, good to see you. You should all go follow Batbird. Who does digital art on stream and is a cool person, so you should go follow Batbird. So Sun Quan's going to take this personally, as he should have, probably. But here's the thing. Google Translate sounds like Cao Cao, with the rising and flat intonation when you give it that. Which I guess is the Cantonese symbols. Or Mandarin symbols. I can't read either one of those. Treaty marriages can be really tricky, and that was a poor response. Correct. So it's messy. And Sun Quan decides, no, I don't trust Liu Bei anymore. Guan Yu has insulted me. I must now gain vengeance. And what ends up happening is that Sun Quan invades part of the kingdom of Shu, captures Guan Yu, and kills him. And you can just think about how good that goes over. It it's a bad message when Liu Bei gets that, and immediately he's like, "Oh, it's on." And Liu Bei basically makes a blood oath, like, I'm getting you. You are gonna get got. But then something weird happens. The King of Wei, who I have apparently been pronouncing wrong, dies. And his son, who is spelled similar, but has a different given name, this way, he takes over. And here he is. Look how fancy that guy is. And see, he's got like the flat-toed shoes too. I don't know what's up with the flat-toed shoes. Like, all these people have like the big, like, pokey-outy shoe things. I don't know what that is for, and I kind of want to know. Anyway, so I guess I'll call him Cao. Anyway, this guy ends up, it's to hold back the hymns. Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking about. It had to be about the hymns. But if you can confirm that. Oh, you looked it up. Okay. Okay, thank you, Figment. Awesome sauce. I can appreciate that you appreciate that. Those shoes are so hot. Indeed, they are. They are all the rage. Anyway, so when Cao takes over, here's the deal. He goes up to the Emperor and he's like, look, my dad was nice. I'm not nice. You got to quit. And Emperor Xian's like, you know what? I'm kind of done anyway. Fine. I quit. Take the throne. And in 220, the Han Dynasty comes to its end. Now, yes, he died. He died from a head sickness. Whatever that means. So maybe he had a really bad head cold. Head sickness can mean a lot of things in the ancient world. Maybe he had a brain aneurysm. Maybe he had some sort of head sickness. Yep. He was sick in the head. So, he was fairly old though. He was in his late 60s. Yeah, but again, we don't necessarily have, ancient autopsies or anything like that. There's not like CSI Luoyang. Well, they weren't even in Luoyang at that point. They would have been in Shi, which was the new capital city. That sounds like a code for syphilis. It might have been syphilis. Who knows? It could have been. It could have been. It's the nice name for syphilis. I don't know that it's syphilis, by the way. I am not accusing him of it could have been a tumor, right? It could have been lots of different things. We don't know what it was. He just had a head sickness and he died. But we know that his son took over, and right away he tells Emperor Xian to go. Like, you just got to go. And Xian abdicates, and at that point we now have a new emperor, because Cao Pi is going to call himself Emperor of Wei. And he is very much going to upset the entire apple cart, because when he starts using the title Emperor, this is a big deal. So Liu Bei is about to gear up to go fight Sun Quan for killing Guan Yu. I guess I should get rid of Guan Yu. Sorry, dude, you're dead. You were cool, and there's a really neat statue of you, but you're gone. So it's time for him to go fight Sun Quan for killing his best friend, and now the big bad guy has declared himself emperor. So Liu Bei is going to go, all right, well, if we're all just declaring ourselves emperor, I'm the emperor of Shu. But he declares himself the emperor of Shu Han, which is important because he says that he is going to carry on the true, sort of the spirit of the Han Dynasty. And that he is going to be the real successor to the Han Dynasty, not those evil Wei people up in the north. Hey, gallery far, far away. What's up? How's it going, to hurt you? Hope you're doing well. Thanks for the tentacle. So, at this point, the only person that's not declared himself emperor is Sun Quan. Sun Quan's going to wait till 223 to declare himself emperor, but it's coming. So, Liu Bei decides, all right, I've declared myself emperor. I've got an army. I've got to go kill Sun Quan. He killed my friend. I will get my revenge. It is the end of the day. Let's go get him. I guess it's fair to note at this point that we should take a look at the map. Because you know I was going to have a map, right? It's a map. So here we have the Kingdom of Wei. Random history fact. Random history fact about anything. About anything, or just like about China, or like literally just a random history fact? You can give me a bit more guidance, or I can literally just go true random. Back in the 90s. About anything. Lee Harvey Oswald, the guy that killed Kennedy, actually tried to kill a general in the military before he tried to kill Kennedy. Kennedy was not the first person that he shot at with that same rifle. There was a general that he shot at from some bushes behind the general's house, and instead of killing the guy, it sort of like hit the little part in the middle of the window, like the little support and the pane of the window, and then like went right in the guy's, like across the guy's scalp. But he survived, and Lee Harvey Oswald got away with it. So, interesting stuff. You were in a famous TV show. You're BoJack Horseman. I really enjoyed BoJack Horseman. I know that it is a super bummer show, and it's almost all like attempt for redemption and then throwing redemption in the fire. But I think it really captured life in a way that not many other shows have. I think the brutal honesty of it is something that just somehow manages to perfectly get what being alive is like. How do you get away with it? It was from about 100 yards away, and Oswald was in some bushes, and they only figured out that he had done it when they started matching ballistics. So some of the bullets that they recovered from the Kennedy assassination matched the ballistics with the bullet that they got from the general's house. And I can't remember what the guy's name was, like McDonald or something like that. What you love most about the show is how they just go with it after BoJack steals the D in Hollywood sign. So it's just like Hollywood. Yeah. $50 to $100, but she'd only do chibis after working for Funko for 6 years. She doesn't want to get into any legal trouble knowing all the secrets. Price depends on how detailed. Oh, wow. Okay. Vipers, that's that's interesting, but that's probably way outside of my price range. But I appreciate the legwork. That was uncalled for and much appreciated. Thank you very much. And maybe for Christmas I'll get in touch with you. And I don't blame her at all for not wanting to get sued by a giant mega corporation like Funko. So, yep. Okay. So, where was I? Oh, Liu Bei's going to go kill Sun Quan. That doesn't go so great. Liu Bei goes to fight him, and it doesn't go well. The invasion of Wu goes catastrophically horrible, and it goes so bad that the Shu army is stuck really far behind enemy lines. And at that moment, when they are so far behind enemy lines, the Wei army decides, hey, it'd be great to attack while Shu is away. So let's attack Shu. Now, we've got two bad guys. And the vengeance for Guan Yu doesn't get solved because Liu Bei's got to go back to his hometown to try to fight off the invasion of the Wei, and he sort of has to admit that he won't be able to ever get his vengeance, and he has to sort of make nice with Sun Quan again. And even though he does manage to fight off the Wei invasion, he's never the same. He basically gives up on life. Oh man, hurt you. That sounds horrible. I hope that the crown is located. So he starts drinking a lot. He starts eating a whole bunch of, the rich, savory food, which is basically, code word for he's pigging out and eating all the bad for him food. And he basically just gives up. Like, I lost my best friend. I can't even get vengeance. I'm so weak that I can't fight off the bad guys. I kind of quit. And he ends up dying in 223. And that is the end of one of the three emperors. Now, his son does take over, whose name is Liu Shan. So the Shu kingdom is not done. We're just switching leaders. And at this point, when Liu Bei dies, it's kind of like a reckoning for everybody in the kingdom. They're like, man, they sort of realize how much they had been held together by his gravitas. And before he dies, he sort of appoints some of his military leaders as official advisors to his son. And one of those is a guy named Zhuge Liang, who I didn't get a picture of, and I really should have. That's a failure on my part. In the entire epic, the dude that unequivocally comes out as the smartest ever is this guy named Zhuge Liang. It's spelled like that. So he is sort of the military advisor for Liu Shan, and he's very, very active. Oh, I can show you this as well. This is Liu Shan. He's also playing the Space Invaders game over here. So Zhuge Liang is not one to sit on his hands. He decides that the best thing for the Shu kingdom to do, so as to not show weakness, is to basically try to invade Wei. And this is a big, big undertaking, and it doesn't go the way that they want it to. And there's going to be 5 different invasions. This takes place over the course of the year 223 to about 234. And they just keep trying to invade, and they have all of these sort of winning streaks going, and then they get sort of deeper into Wei territory, and then they run out of food or their supply line gets cut, and they sort of always fall back on that. We can't keep our army supplied in enemy territory. And they end up having to retreat, or they get routed and have to run back. One of the attempts does manage to keep a little bit of territory in the sort of on the Wei side of the border, but it's not necessarily going to be the best exchange, because what ends up happening is that they give a ton of their soldiers and a ton of their effort, and they get back just a little bit of territory. And this is almost like World War One exchanges where, we've lost 5,000 men and we got 100 yards of territory. It's not quite that bad, but it is not an equivalent exchange. This would not work well in Full Metal Alchemist. This is not going to work out evenly on the scales. But we get some really interesting stories from this, and I honestly wish I could tell you that all of this stuff was 100% accurate. I will share with you my favorite Zhuge Liang story, and I will preface this with, we can't prove that this happened, and there's not necessarily a lot of evidence that this happened. But it's a really fun story, and I'll share it anyway because it's super entertaining. And the story is basically to explain how intelligent Zhuge Liang is. So the story goes that on one of these expeditions, there was a conflict coming between the Wei army and the Shu army. And Zhuge Liang knew that he had to hold this particular city. And like if he didn't hold this city, the entire war effort that thus far would be sort of lost. But he was down on his luck. The army had been really heavily damaged. They didn't have a lot of supplies. So he comes up with this pretty brilliant idea. And he basically evacuates all the citizens from the city and sort of gets them to hide in the distance. And he dresses up the few soldiers that he has to look like everyday people that are just kind of living in the city. And gets them like to even go out and start like sweeping their houses and stuff, so it looks like everyday business is happening. And he opens all of the gates to the city, and then he goes out to sit on the wall. And the Wei army approaches, and the leader of the Wei army sort of like, gets this sort of prickly spider sense feeling like something's amiss here. And they have this conversation where he calls up to Zhuge Liang and he's like, old man, what's going on? And Zhuge Liang is like just turbo chill and super clutch the whole time. And he's just like, oh yeah, come on in. Because there aren't any soldiers in the city at all. It's just, it's a ghost town. There's not any of the army here. So yeah, just come on in. Just come on in. And the general of the Wei army is so freaked out by this, and he's like, oh no, dude, if we walk in those doors, there's a giant friggin' ambush and we're all gonna die. And the Wei army literally retreats. They just give up on the city. They're like, we're not going in there, that's crazy stuff. There's no way we're going in there. I really wish I could say for certain that happened. I cannot tell you that it happened because we don't have enough proof to say definitively that it did. That is something that does show up in the sort of the big Romance of the Three Kingdoms story. Yeah, I can't prove that it's true. I just know that it is, right? So like the Bill Maher thing. I don't know that it's true, but I do think that it is. So it's one of my favorite stories, and I love Zhuge Liang. That guy is crazy. So what you're hearing is that it definitely happened. If you want that to happen in your head canon, you are welcome to make that happen. I just would not necessarily try to defend that at a convention of Chinese historians. Okay, so long story short, the invasion of Wei by Shu is not really that successful. They blow out a lot of soldiers, and they don't really get a lot out of it. And in the middle of all of this, while they're fighting up in the north, there's also a rebellion down in the south. So in both of the southern regions, so down here for the Shu kingdoms, and down here for the Wu kingdom, so this is Sun Quan's territory over here. So down in the south of both of these areas, there were barbarians, or what the Chinese called barbarians. Down here in the southern part of this region, they were called the Nanman. Anyway, so both the Shu kingdom and the Wu kingdom decide that the best thing for them to do is to sort of give a rest, trying to fight the Wei kingdom up here and go conquer these barbarians down in the south. This is actually a really strategic move and turns out really well for both kingdoms, the Wu and the Shu, because when they conquer these areas of the south, this is going to bring in a ton of soldiers into their armies, and it's also going to help with supplies and food and money. So this sort of gives both of them kind of a bump up or a level up, if you will, and they're going to be able to kind of take that to the Wei. Unfortunately, the Wei have a lot of trouble, and the leader of the Wei after Cao Cao was Cao Pi, who died when he was only 40. So he's dying pretty young here. His son is going to take over, but his son was only 22. And that's old enough to rule, but, we're in the middle of what is effectively the biggest civil war that China has seen for probably 400 something years. And a 22-year-old that doesn't necessarily have a lot of military experience is not really the person that you want running the show. So who do they get to run the show? Well, they get this guy named Sima Yi. Sima Yi is this guy. He's even got his sword here with him, ready to fight. Sima Yi. I love the little flower here on the hat. +1 for Pranash for the hat flower. He's ready to throw down. He is ready to throw down. And this guy is a really good military leader. He's a really smart dude. He looks like he could do some damage. He can do some damage. He is going to basically be the backbone of the Wei army for about the next 20 or so years. He is going to be in charge of several of the invasion issues. So, like when the Shu kingdom invades the Wei kingdom, Sima Yi is the guy that has to go out and try to stop them. He does almost completely every single time. But the problems with the leadership is not going to end with just Cao Pi's son. It's actually going to keep going because his son, whose name is Cao Rui, is going to die. He's going to die when he's 35. And we end up with a 7-year-old on the throne of Wei. This guy named Xiao Feng, who's a little kid. And Sima Yi is basically going to run the Wei kingdom for a while. Because, a 7-year-old is not even going to be close to being competent to run a kingdom, much less a 22-year-old that dies when he's 35, right? So, Sima Yi is going to hold the Wei kingdom together. But by the time we get to the 240s, the decade from about 240 to 250, you were going to say that's pretty young, but you forget the times. Yeah, anybody that rules at 22 is capable of ruling. Look at what Alexander did. He was already conquering nations by 22. He was also just in an especially perfect moment in history for that to happen. But, George Washington wasn't much older than that when he started working with the Virginia Rangers and fought in the 7 Years' War. There are lots of people that take over really young and manage to make a pretty good go of it. Louis XIV in France took over when he was younger than 22, and that guy became the most powerful despot in Europe. It's not always a guarantee. You're not always going to be good if you start young, but sometimes people are. The powdered wig definitely ages you. Yeah, he ruled for a long, long time. He ruled for 40-something years. You were having meltdowns in university at 22. Figment. Oh, Figment. I don't think... Well, okay. I don't want to lessen your meltdowns, but I think you came out of them pretty okay. You would know... Yeah, I was there. I know. But you handled them as well as you could have. You came out of them okay, and you're better on the other side, right? I'm not trying to dismiss the severity of them at the time, but Okay, so the 240s. This is a sort of a stalemate period. The way leadership is changing really quickly. Sima Yi is going to basically have to take over everything, and they still can't get across the Yangtze River. They still keep trying to break through to the defenses of the Wu, and they just can't do it. The Shu are not really able to do very much at all. They do manage to put together one small campaign in the middle part of the 240s, and they do go up into the Wei territory and have one victory, but for the rest of the decade, that's pretty much it. There's some smaller sort of border scuffling, but there's not really much motion there. Wu can't really attack into anything without help from the Shu, because invading would mean giving up their fortified positions along the border. So without a big support from the army of Shu, the Wu aren't going to go anywhere, and the Shu can't really do anything except for sit and lick their wounds anyway. The only thing that really happens during this period of time that is significantly kind of moving on the board actually takes place because of some Korean silliness. Now, if you were with us when we were talking about our three kingdoms of Korea up here last time we checked in, you know that the big kingdom of Korea at the time was called Goguryeo. And it sat right up here, sort of in this little pocket part of the Korean peninsula. Well, when all of this crazy stuff had been going on down here, and all of these leader changes had been happening in the kingdom of Wei, and especially when, they're being invaded down here and they're trying to invade down here, the Korean kingdom of Goguryeo decided it's time for us to expand into Chinese territory. So Goguryeo expanded this direction, and as soon as the Wei leadership figured out that the Koreans were invading, they decided, oh no, that's not going to happen. And they sent an army and one of their better generals up here, and they just wrecked Goguryeo to the point that they ran them out of their capital and destroyed a lot of the stuff in the capital. And they beat them so badly that Goguryeo does not show up in Chinese history records for the next 40 years. They just beat them that badly. And this is in 242. And that sort of solidified the control of the Wei up in this top corner of China and Korea. So that's really the most significant movement of the borders during that period of time. So by the time we get to 250, things are poised for either ultimate stalemate where nobody's going anywhere, or if one domino falls, the whole system is going to collapse into chaos again. And that's where we're going to call it for tonight, and we'll pick up with that next week, because I love ending on a cliffhanger because it makes everybody go, but wait, where's the rest of the story? Well, I'm not going to tell you tonight. I'll tell you next week if you come back around. Or you can go look it up for yourself and do a little bit of research. It's all out there. It's pretty easy to find. But that is going to wrap it up for me on my portion of tonight. But as always, that doesn't mean that we have to run away. What happened to Xiao Pi? So he died, and his son took over, whose name was Cao Rui. And then he died pretty young and didn't actually have a son, had to adopt a kid just before he died, who ended up being Cao Fong. Sorry. So wait, was Guan Yu featured so much in pop culture if he wasn't even around that long? Oh, okay, so Gallinuva, he was around from the beginning. He was a big deal before even Liu Bei was a big deal. He was significantly older than Liu Bei, and he had been a pretty significant figure in Chinese military for a while. And in all of the battles that he fought in, he was sort of an unparalleled general. He was incredibly well respected for both his demeanor, his own battle prowess. man, why you gotta ask me these things? I mean, you know I want to be famous, but whatever. I can't be famous that way. So it was a lot bigger deal. Once again, I condensed a lot of this stuff into digestible bite-sized chunks for the stream. We could have strung out this whole thing and probably done a stream for every decade of this 100 years, and probably had interesting discussions about all of it. It would have turned into a really crazy mess of names and marriages and betrayals and remarriages and movings, and this guy turned into that guy, and all right, the opinion hat has been summoned. Opinion time. Lee Harvey Oswald actually guilty. No conspiracy theory / scapegoat. I'm pretty sure he killed Kennedy. I know. A lot of people want to believe the conspiracy theory. A lot of people say that, that this guy was not capable of doing that. Red Proctor, hey, good evening, my friends. I was referred to you by Aristotle. Nice. Aris is a cool dude. I'm a historian, and he's like, I don't know much about history, but Shane does. So hello. Hey, Proctor, good to see you. I am a college history teacher. I have a master's in history, undergraduate stuff in history and religion. Just wrapped up another master's in sociology, and we do history here. This is Adventures in History. This is our, where did that go? Where did our stream info go? We lost our title. There we go. And we've got some other people that are either trained historians like Figment or really interested armchair historian people, and people that just like to hang out and make bad puns and tell, dad jokes and refer to pop culture and stuff. So yeah, the opinion hat has been summoned. When the opinion hat gets summoned, I have to put on the opinion hat and give my opinion. I have the opinion hat to designate the fact that I am talking about my opinion. My opinion is based on research and fact, but it doesn't mean that it's true. So, yeah, the opinion hat has been summoned, and I've been asked about Lee Harvey Oswald and whether or not the guy is actually guilty, or whether or not there was some sort of conspiracy theory or scapegoat. You're a mix of all three, so you're going to be very comfortable here. Absolutely. Feel free to participate at whatever level you feel comfortable. We're all friends here. We can talk about literally whatever. We've had maybe 2 instances where I felt even kind of like making people back down, and I've been streaming now for more than a year. We've got a really great community. I say that we have the best community on Twitch, and I'm being completely factual when I say that I believe that. But of course, I'm clearly biased. And I'm also wearing the opinion hat right now, so you can take that for what it is. But anyway, so yeah, I think Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy. The guy was kind of a scumbag. He was not a very well-liked individual. He did have military training. He was a Marine. So he knew how to shoot. He had, lots of beef against lots of people. I don't think that there's necessarily. So I guess what I can say about the specific conspiracy theory is that it's really easy to say there's no way this nobody killed Kennedy, right? Because it just doesn't make sense if you just say some nobody that's in the middle of nowhere from Texas killed the president. It just doesn't make sense. But if you look at who assassinated other big figures in history, I mean, they're not really anybody. The guy that killed Lincoln was an actor, right? The dude that killed Archduke Franz Ferdinand had mental disabilities and was in a separatist movement because those were really the only people that would put up with him, right? It doesn't take it doesn't take some sort of trained wet work sniper guy from the Marine Mossad KGB training camp to whack some dude. It just takes somebody crazy enough that knows how to shoot a gun. I think the fact that there was a government investigation gave a lot of people cover because they're like, oh, look, the government's investigating it. But let's also remember, look, the friggin' president got shot, right? The government wasn't not going to look at that. The president got killed. There was going to be an investigation regardless. The communists killed Kennedy and used Oswald as a scapegoat. Kidding. So that's one of the things. Like, oh no, it was all KGB. The people that say that it was the KGB don't realize that Kennedy had just been utterly shown up by Nikita Khrushchev because of the Bay of Pigs situation, right? Kennedy was the laughingstock of Russia. They loved having him president. He could do nothing to make himself look like a target to these people. Khrushchev was running propaganda against Kennedy like 24/7, showing how weak he was and how horrible he was. And look, the Americans had to give up their nuclear weapons in Turkey because we punked them by putting missiles in Cuba. I mean, Khrushchev loved Kennedy. Khrushchev was not the most popular leader in the Russian history at that point because there were actually people inside of Russia that were, and I'm not joking here, they were saying that Khrushchev wasn't mean enough and they sort of wanted to make Russia Stalin again. And I'm not joking. There were people that were criticizing Khrushchev for being too soft. And the dude was a military dictator that killed people for fun. But he wasn't Stalin enough. He wasn't like iron curtaining everything. Like, look, the friggin' people over in Eastern Europe are thinking about rebelling, and he went and sent Yuri Andropov in to wipe them out, but he could have wiped them out beforehand. Anyway, the KGB liked the fact that Kennedy was there because Kennedy was a joke to them at that point, right? If this had been before the Bay of Pigs and the Cuban Missile Crisis and Kennedy had not been humiliated in Russia, that would have been a much more valid excuse, in my opinion. Notice I am wearing the opinion hat. The dude that shot Andrew Jackson was a crazy guy who thought he was an heir to a European throne. A lot of wackos decide to kill presidents. Right? It's just, you don't have to be somebody special. You can just be a wacko with a gun, right? And I know that is not sexy and that doesn't sell things. But the guy that betrayed the Spartans to the Persians was a dude that didn't get along with the Spartans because he was kind of a weakling and they wouldn't let him join their army. So he sold out the Greeks to the Persians. That doesn't mean that he was some, spy behind the works, FALTs kind of guy. John Wilkes Booth was a big actor at his time. Yeah, but like he wasn't trained commando. He didn't have some sort of like black ops covert training. He was just a dude. That was my point. Like he wasn't some sort of, he was some male model. But why male models? Exactly. It was the male models. It's a model for, what is this? A building for ants? I freaking love Zoolander. I haven't seen the second one. I'm probably not going to watch it because I have a feeling that if it's bad, and I highly suspect that it is bad, it might ruin my love of the first movie. The first movie is so goofy and horrible that I love it. It's one of those movies that's like, Dodgeball or Kung Pao Enter the Fist. It's just horrible, and you just have to love it, and you have to laugh at it, right? All right. Anybody else want to redeem any points? Remember that below you, if you are so inclined, you have adventure points. You can redeem those for various things if you are so inclined. And also, remember that we are running a follower goal. When we get 2 more follows, we will have a History of Middle Earth stream where I get on stream and I just run my mouth about nerdy Lord of the Rings history and Middle Earth stuff where I act like I'm a Tolkien scholar. So that's fun. All right. So anybody else want to do anything? Yeah, we are. We're just like right there. But that's okay. We'll get there eventually. I'm not going to make anybody do anything that they don't want to. So, All right. John Wilkes Booth was a drunk. He was a bumbling mess, and it's a miracle that he even got to the booth with a pun. without falling off the railings. You don't think he's as smart as people think he was. There we are. You did leave a silly thing in the art channel of your Discord. Oh, well, that's cool. Gotta love that. We do have a Discord. If you want to hang out off stream, you can go hang out in the Discord. I try to share interesting history stories that I find in the news when I'm looking around stuff. I will be honest and say that a lot of the channels that get the most action are the meme channels. Lots of memes being shared. But, you know, everybody loves memes, right? They're easy. They're mimetic. That's where meme comes from, by the way, if you're not familiar. And they're funny. They're funny. All right. Anybody else? Seriously. Wasn't John Wilkes Booth's brother the better actor? Like he was a second-rate actor next to his brother? Or is that some random rumor? I've not heard that, Figment. I don't know. And again, me not hearing something does not mean that it is inaccurate. It just means I haven't heard it. So I don't want to opine on something that I don't particularly have any sort of familiarity with, right? Irky Durky. All right, last call. Anybody want to spend points? New stuff, summon the puppy, adventure hat stuff, anything? The main topic about the Three Kingdoms period, because you just watched the video tour about it. The main topic is the Emperor was super weak. The guy in the north took everything over. The two slightly weaker guys in the south made a big arrangement. The bigger of the southern guys killed the best friend of the guy in the other side of the south. That caused a scuffle, which turned into the southern emperor on the western side drinking himself to death and his son and military advisor taking over, and then leading us to a stalemate. That's basically what we covered today. And if you come back next week, we'll pick up with the second half of the story, and we'll get through the end of the war and then what happens when the next dynasty arises, the Jin dynasty. Ooh. And the puppy. The puppy has been summoned. Let me call the puppy. She was clearly asleep. Oh, yes, she was asleep. Come here. Come and see me. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. There's the puppy. Oh, yes. And she has her chicken. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh, yes. I'm not going to take the chicken because that is a sin against the puppy. No, you do not take the chicken. You just look at the chicken. Can I have it, though? Can I? Oh, you gave me the chicken. Oh, my goodness. Oh, it's because I get sugars. Oh, sugars. Oh, sugars. Can I have some sugars here? What are you doing? Come here. What are you doing? Oh, a sneeze. Oh, my goodness. And an itch. What's up? Do you want your chicken? Hey. Come get your chicken. Why are you over there for? Come over here. Come over here. Where? Do you want to come over this way? Is this better? All right, come over this way. Come here. Come here. Oh, yes, we have to come over this side so that we can get the puppy and the chicken. Oh, you want it back? Arr. 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 Well, the chicken butt. You want to catch it? All right, let's see if we can get the catch on camera. Let me put this over here. Let me turn this way. Let me turn this way. All right. We'll put the camera over this way. All right. You ready? Ready? Gonna catch it? Oh ho ho! There's a good catch. Oh yes. And then out of the room. Because she has the toy. Oh yes, that is the puppy, and we have to share the puppy emote. Oh yes, the puppy of war. And we spell her name like this. Like Kaylee Fry, the mechanic from the Firefly ship Serenity. who is her namesake. So she is Kaylee Fry McInnes. And I have now resecured my chair after moving it all around. Oh yeah, she's a mess. A big old mess. Visage. I pronounce it visage. I don't know if it's visage or not. I mean, visage sounds correct to me. Yeah, it's pronounced visage. Visage is the correct pronunciation, according to the Google. And we all know that the Google is the most accurate thing ever, and we cannot do anything. I will let everybody know that before the puppy came on stream and after the puppy came on stream, we gained 3 viewers. So the puppy is clearly the draw here. So I just need to have all puppy stream all day. All right. We all know who the people love here, right? It's clearly the puppy. Okie dokie. Who are we going to go raid? Let's see who we're going to go raid. What's going on? I don't know. Where are we going to go raid? Maybe we should try to raid somebody new tonight. Let's go look at the TFK list. Or the TKF list, and see if there's anybody on Knowledge Foundation that's streaming that we can go raid. Now live in Knowledge Foundation. Let me get down to the bottom. Let's see. Who are we? Software developing. No, that's probably already off. Let's go raid a math person. Because math on Twitch sounds awesome. We're going to go raid a math person. This is part of the... So I joined an online teacher Twitch group. So basically teachers who stream on Twitch. And I've been trying here and there to raid them as I find them online. And there's a guy named Megalomorph who is streaming math. And I know that people here in the chat at one time or another have asked about math streamers. So I feel like there's a little bit... Oh no, math. Dude, I feel the same way. I am not a math person. However, I do appreciate the knowledge. So we're going to go raid Megalomorph. As I always say when we're raiding someone new, I don't know anything about this stream. We're going in kind of blind, but this person has sort of been vetted through the Knowledge Foundation world and is an official member. So these people that are part of this group actually go back and look at people's VODs to make sure that they're actually doing educational stuff. So we're going to go raid Megalomorph, and I hope that everybody shows Megalomorph some love. Our battle cry when we raid is adventure, and you can throw exclamation marks and all those lovely adventure hats in the chat if you would be so kind. My next scheduled show is next Thursday night, where we'll be right back here, same adventure time, same adventure channel, and we'll cover the rest of our war in China. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. There's a decent chance that I'll be doing some Gundam building over the weekend. If you are so inclined to come hang out and chat, I'd be appreciative of that. Otherwise, I will see everybody on the other side. Adventure. Take it easy, everybody.